My name is Taylor. I'm actually the support manager over here at Broker Mint. We're going to be going over, I'm going to be hosting this meeting, this live webinar, and we're going to be going over agent onboarding. Once again, if you want to join audio via the telephone, you see that option in the bottom left there. Feel free to dial into that number using that webinar ID, and you can tune into audio that way if you don't want to use your computer. And then we're going to be doing everything you need to know about our brand new agent onboarding module. Once again, I'm going to be hosting. Frisco Doyle is going to be presenting this to you today.
Hi,
And
everybody.
hello, Frisco. And the agenda is going to be, it's going to start off really simple. We're going to just show you, a little bit about what agent onboarding actually means inside of BrokerMint, where they're going to talk about how to configure these new checklists, how to actually onboard those new agents, how to onboard existing agents. So many of you are current clients, so maybe you want to add onboarding to your existing agents. You'll be able to do that as well. We'll talk about how you can monitor the process of that onboarding section, how you can cancel the onboarding process, and then how to wrap up and finish that onboarding. And then just as a heads up, to make sure we're all on the same page here, this new agent onboarding module is available for all new pricing enterprise clients. The date for that would be anyone who joined us or who upgraded to a new enterprise account beginning May 1st. If you have any questions about whether this is available for you or not, please feel free to reach out to us via the chat, your support specialist, your implementation manager, whoever it is that you want to reach out to. You can definitely reach out. We'll be more than happy to get you that information. And if you do have any questions, once again, please use the Q&A option in the bottom middle part of your screen. That's the easiest way for us to keep organized on which questions have been answered and which are still pending. We will answer these questions live. And then, of course, at the end of this webinar, we'll also open it up to just a pure question and answer section. Please do keep your questions related to agent onboarding. If you have a question about a commission plan or something like that, please feel free to reach out to us via chat, email, telephone. Today's meeting is going to be purely about agent onboarding. And then you can always view any of our other video guides at support.brokermint.com, or you can click on that Need Help Video Guides button on the bottom right corner of any BrokerMint screen that you have. Without further ado, though, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the questions. Frisco's going to be presenting, so I'm going to hand it off to him.
All right, well, thanks for the intro, Taylor, and hope everyone's doing good today, and appreciate you guys all joining us here for this demo of our agent onboarding module. So if we take a look here, right before we start getting into this real process, we've got a few polls that are coming up for you guys. So if you don't mind, we really appreciate any feedback that you guys can give us about what your current process is or how your overall brokering experience has been. So we kind of use these to better ourselves and better our product, which in turns makes everything better for you guys. So without further ado, let's get into actual agent onboarding. So what do we mean by agent onboarding? Well, we mean if you go and say, bring on a brand new agent, someone who may or may not even have their license yet, they're just now getting introduced to the brokerage lifestyle or to your brokerage in particular. So it's that bit of paperwork that we need, those forms we need to fill out, and everything we got to file away before we allow that agent to sell brokerage with, to sell real estate with our brokerage. So that's what we mean by onboarding. And it can cover anything between brand new agents and, of course, maybe there's a few agents been with us for a little while that's still missing paperwork. So we can also initiate this process for those guys as well. So let's go ahead and get into this. So one of the very first sections that you'll really configure when we go into this agent onboarding is our onboarding checklist. So as we come into our checklist section here, just below our transaction checklist, we have our agent onboarding. So whenever this is activated for you, it comes with its own, simple onboarding process, very similar to how a transaction works in terms of the actual checklist. There's only two real big main differences you'll notice. So as we go through these, say we wanted to add a new task in real quick. to add this task. One of the big differences you'll see is this to be completed by. Instead of all those transaction roles that you're used to, we're down to just two, our admin and our agent. Agent being the person with onboarding, and admin being any administrators we have that we've given the permission to manage this process for. So just like any other transaction, we just give it a name, a description if we want, and whether it requires a document. And just like before, we can attach them or we can set these up using forms. So if you guys have any onboarding forms that you currently have in your library and have already created e-sign templates for, you can add them right in here just like any other checklist task. Just add it in when you're ready, and here we go. Now the second thing you may have noticed already on the screen is the lack of due dates. So we aren't basing any of these specific tasks on any known date. We have no date we're associating with anything. So it's more about the agent will be able to sell property once he's got this paperwork in. However long that takes that person to take care of these things is how long that person takes. So, and we're going to be able to monitor exactly how long this process has been going on from when we get to our user section. But for here, we can see everything we've got in place, and a few of these forms are pre-mapped. So anything you see here are just forms we've already given you. They're really basic commission agreements or W-9 stuff or even business cards. So if you guys have any of your own forms or any of your own processes, we'd be more than happy and willing to map these things for you. So if you've got specific paperwork you'd like us to take care of and kind of set up with our new Forms 2.0, which if you haven't seen that already, there is a video of that already in our knowledge base, then we can take those forms and we'll go ahead and get them mapped and help you work through your process to build your own onboarding checklists. Whether it's just one simple one like you see here, or if it's, several different ones that you may be getting into. So I did see a quick message pop into the chat real quick. Sorry, how did you get to this section? So our onboarding checklist is located in the exact same place as our transaction checklist. So as long as we have access to settings and checklists, this is where this will be once onboarding is activated for you.
We also had one more question come through the Q&A section from Robert Kassam. Robert asked, or stated more, I don't see the agent onboarding in the checklist section.
Do you mean for your own personal account or on my screen? So when will it be activated? So that's up to you guys in this, okay, on your personal, Robert. Okay, thanks. So that just means that agent onboarding hasn't been activated for your account. In terms of when will it be activated, that's something for you to talk to your implementation specialist about. Get with them, let them know that you're interested in agent onboarding and you'd like it activated. And then we'll take a look to see, about that enterprise account. Are you on the right plan? Are you on the right pricing version of the plan? So once those details are hammered out and everything looks good, then we can go ahead and activate it for your account. We'll give you the probably an additional full demo on a more personalized basis between you and your implementation specialist. And then once everything is all said and done, we can go ahead and get that activated for you then. So I hope that, I hope that dives deep enough into your question and really answers it for you.
So Randy, Robert, please let us know if that didn't answer your question. But the shortest answer there is it's not turned on by default. You do have to, request it to be turned on for you. We follow up, make sure that your plan is correct. As long as it is, we can have that activated for you. Christine asked a question, how does the agent access these tasks? We're actually going to be getting to that in just a little bit, Christine. So we're going to start off by showing you how those checklists are built. So I'm going to leave your question in the Q&A section as open right now, and we'll get to it here in a few minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. So now that we've got these tasks actually built, let's come in and take a look at our user section so we can go into how to actually initiate that onboarding process for these new agents. So once we jump into our user section here, we're so used to seeing all of our active users and inactive users. Well, probably one of the first things you've noticed so far is these big yellow words here that say onboarding. So once we've added someone to this onboarding status, we get 2 additional changes. In our main list, it'll say onboarding beside their name. And for those larger brokerages that have a lot of agents and can't really shift through all that, there's an additional tab over here just for onboarding. Shows you only the agents in that status. Now, before we go further, let's go ahead and create a fresh user and get them introduced with onboarding. So we'll go through our regular onboarding, our regular user creation process. Go ahead and give in our first name, last name.
And while Frisco's typing in that data there, Terry did ask a question, is there a checklist for terminating an agent? We don't by default have one, but you definitely can create any checklist that you like. So if there's a certain process that you follow for that, you can create that checklist in that agent onboarding section.
So now that we've got our user in, again, we just go through everything as usual, assigning permissions, assigning commission plans. And then if you've created any new users lately, you may have seen this new option here, the way this window is presented, the save user. Again, we have our basic ones we used to provide, the do not notify for now and the send the welcome email. But now we have a new third option, the start onboarding process. So from here, as soon as we select it, it's going to want us to pick a checklist. So if we have, that simple onboarding, we can go ahead and throw it in there, or any other checklist that you had created that you want to use. Now, when I click Create User, it's going to throw us into that module, and it's also going to send that agent a welcome email so that they can log in and start their actual onboarding. So here we go. We've got this in. We've got our test agent available. We see it says onboarding beside them. Now, in addition to this, on the actual user profile level, we have this new dropdown, this onboarding. We give it a click. It'll show us when we started this process, how long the agent has been going through this, and what our current progress is. Now, to actually open up onboarding, we can do it by either clicking the word onboarding or by clicking more details in the user profile. Go ahead and give that a click, and now we jump straight in. So this is what the agent onboarding looks like from the admin's perspective. We can, we've got our back button to hop back out. We see who this is for. Onboarding, now right now this is listing my brokerage. Now, depending on if your brokerage has sub-accounts, if your sub-accounts has different names, you'll see each of those names show up. So you can always keep track of which account you're onboarding an agent into. And then of course, we've got our progress percentage. Again, we've got our tasks, who they're due from, whether it's an admin task or if it's due from the agent, and then whether anything requires a document or not. Pretty simple, everything you guys have seen before with your transaction checklists. So again, we can upload any documents we need. If for any reasons they may be exempt from one of these items, we can exempt them from it if we know we already have this or if they just don't need it. And then we've got any of our use forms. So for these, again, a lot of them are already mapped out. We can map out anything you guys do provide to us, but you go through the process just like any other form. We'll put in our signers. Who's going to be our broker for this one? It'll be myself. Sending it out to my agent. I hit next, and it generates that e-sign package.
Now, Frisco, while you're generating this e-sign package, we had a few questions come in.
Sure.
The first one is, can we, Emmanuel Goldsmith is asking, can we see an example email the agent receives? And Frisco, maybe you know more, but my question to that would be, do you mean the email they would get to sign the document, or which email you're referring to, Emmanuel? Can we see the sample email or the welcome email? Yeah, that one's going to be tough to show you because we'd have to have a email address that we haven't already used as a demonstration. Let's see here.
If you could hold off on that until the end, I can show you. But
okay.
We'll wait to the very end of the webinar and I'll readdress that because that's going to be a little extra and a little time consuming.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's see. Daniela Nikotra, she asked, how do we get the onboarding tab to populate onto our company site?
So that'll happen once onboarding has actually been activated. As soon as onboarding gets activated, that onboarding tab with your users will automatically show up.
And once again, agent onboarding is available for anyone with an enterprise account that's on our new pricing system that started in May. So if you have any questions about, getting it turned on for you, am I eligible? Can I become eligible? That type of thing, please feel free to reach out to us via the chat or directly to your support specialist if you work directly with them, and we can get those questions answered for you. Kirk asks, our company has several people involved in onboarding. How many people can we assign the task to?
So I'm going to assume you mean you have several admins that are in charge of onboarding, and who can you assign those tasks to? So those tasks aren't assigned to individuals. They're assigned to all of those admins. So as I go through this, let me jump right back to that, and I'll officially answer that in a sec. So with this form we've got up, we see everything that needs to be done. We've got our signature boxes at the very end for our broker and our agent to sign off. All we need to do is send that, and we can take care of everything from there. Now back to your question about those admins that can actually do this or be in charge of it. Let's come into my permissions here. Let's see, I know we've got it somewhere. One sec. So it would be any admins that have this can manage users ability. As long as you are an admin with the ability to manage users, you can place people in and out of onboarding and manage those tasks. So it kind of eliminates that single point of failure, having the ability to only have one person that can be responsible for this. Instead, we open it up to a larger group, kind of increasing how effective you guys can be with this process.
Now, one more question came through. Once again, it was asking if there's going to be a recording. Everybody, there is going to be a recording available. We usually put it up on the knowledge base within 3 to 5 business days. Linda Miller asks, if this has no dates, how can you monitor the dates the license expires? It'd be great if we were able to add the license expiration date at the time of onboarding that we could show on the calendar for the admin. I'm sure Frisco's going to have a slightly more detailed version of this, but once again, to monitor license expiration date, we actually have a report built to do that. It's called our agent report, I believe. And so you can actually already monitor license expiration dates within Brokerment using your standard reports, Linda.
And now I didn't go into the additional fields, but whenever you create the user's account, that brand new agent, regardless of whether you're putting them in onboarding or not, whenever you go to create that account, in your additional fields section is where you can add in their license number and their expiration date. And then you can always use that exact same report that Taylor just brought up to actually track those expirations. Now, speaking of, I know it's a little off topic, but when you're inside your user section, there's 2 things we see here that's big difference. These onboarding and then this big red triangle. Now this big red triangle is actually how to manage or at least monitor who has an expired license, at least from this user module. So once you're in the user section, if you've put an expiration date and it expires, it'll show up in red. You can use the report to track when they're actually coming up. And then when you create the account is when you'll actually put that information in. So that's all done kind of outside of onboarding. We already have things in place to take care of those. But thank you for the question though. So I know there's someone else here that's probably wondering the same thing. So we've gone through how to create them, how to create this new person and throw them in. Now let's talk about what happens if I have an existing user and I need to put them in onboarding. Maybe it's a termination onboarding, maybe it's a transfer, maybe they're just missing important paperwork that I still need from them. So in this case, let's take agent demo, for example. Nope, not that one. Let's see, Brandy. Okay, here we go. Test, big test. I'm very unique with my names, guys. So now that we've got this agent that's been with us for a little while, all we need to do is, oh, sorry. Looks like I've actually done this demo so many times, I've used up all of my agents. So let's do this. Create a new agent. Perfect. Now we have an agent in the system, regardless of how long he's been here, he's never done this onboarding. So all I need to do is we can actually come in. Where are we at? Query 67, agent's agent. Now, when I come into this user, sorry, giving a little bit of drawback from this. All right, here we go. Now we have this button over here in the top corner that says Start Onboarding. So this is how we initiate this for these for these agents that have been with us for a little while. We just hit Start Onboarding, select which checklist we need, and hit Select. And boom, we immediately see the onboarding notification pop up, and we can see he's also been added to our additional tab here. Now, what happens to the agent, or from the agent's perspective, once we get them into this onboarding status? Let's come take a look at that now. We'll go ahead and log in as the agent. So when we do this, the very first thing and the only thing that's going to happen is this agent is now going to show up in our onboarding module. This is the only thing he has access to. And it will stay this way until he's completed his onboarding. That means no access to the rest of Brokerage. There is no ability to create transactions. Whatever permissions you gave this person don't matter yet. Not until we finish this process. So from here, we can see any tasks that are assigned to the admin. I can't touch. I can't do anything with these. I can only fill out the ones that are assigned to me. And as I go through and I start getting these documents back in, we can see that our progress will start to go up. Now, with that being said, this is not only what happens to new agents, but this is also what happens to existing agents. So the way the onboarding module works is when we activate it, we are telling them most of the time that, hey, I need this paperwork from you because it's important to the way we do business here. So until you give me this paperwork, I can't allow you to use my system anymore. That is effectively what we're saying once we throw someone into this onboarding status. So if it's an existing user who's been using Brokerage for a while, we need to have a talk with them, let them know, hey, I'm missing your W-9 paperwork or your non-disclosure agreement. I can't find it. Maybe it's expired, some paperwork. So until we get this, I need you to kind of take care of this above all else. So when we put them in onboarding, the next time that agent goes to log into the system, just like a brand new agent, they'll be taken directly to this module here. Now, when I mean there's nothing they can do, not even I can get out of this screen. So this really does lock everything down and force them to turn in this paperwork before they can continue. Now that we've got this, we'll say that everything's been turned in, and now it's time for us to complete our onboarding process. So us as the admin, we get out, we come back in, test agent 42, he's all good to go. Say we've turned everything in. When we come up to action, we have two options here, cancel and finish. If we're going to finish this out, it just lets us know we're about to finish this. Do we want to proceed? Once we hit confirm, we can see we've been taken out of this onboarding status. And now all that agent would have to do is either log back into the system or even refresh their screen, and boom, they're right back in. Now they can use everything the way they need to. And the same will happen for any old agents, anyone you finish the process for. Now, what if we need to cancel this out for whatever reason? So we have this onboarding. We've got this new agent. They showed up, they started the process, but maybe they just never finished. Maybe they decided going through this wasn't really for them. They apologize for wasting your time, but they're no longer going to proceed with being a member of your team. When we come into this, so as you can see now, we're in just test agent. We come up to action and we cancel it. When we cancel this process, it will inactivate that person. So you don't have to worry about canceling the process and forgetting to remove them, which would then give them access to the system. We've taken care of that for you. It will automatically throw them into inactive. So now they continue to no longer have any access to the system. So do I have any questions? I know a few have come into the chat, and I think I saw Taylor go ahead and take care of one of them there. So is there any questions on anything you guys have seen so far about this process?
This question comes in from Christine. To gain access to the system, do they need to set up an account if they don't have one already?
So when we start this onboarding thing, we are actually creating their account right there. So they'll get a welcome email, which I did say I would go back at the very end of everything and kind of cover, but they will get a welcome email in which they'll set up their password. And then as soon as they log in, they'll go straight to the onboarding. Once the onboarding is done and they've submitted their last bit of paperwork, the next time they log in, and that's after the admin has officially gone through and clicked finish. The next time they log in, they'll come in and look at Brokerage like everyone else does, straight to their transaction screen.
And then Christine followed that up with, if so, how much access are they granted with that account? They're granted as much access as you give them with the permission section once agent onboarding has been completed, Christine. They only have access to the onboarding checklist until that checklist has been completed.
Exactly.
And then two other questions came in, and then we'll move on. Daryl Wass asked, can you have required checklists and non-required checklists so they can enter in the system?
So you can't designate a checklist as required for onboarding. That would be more about your internal processes. Now, if you need to tell your admins that when they're onboarding, this is the checklist that needs to be used. And it should be, you can name your checklist whatever you want, so you should make it easy for your admins to understand which checklists are required to onboard.
And I think more of what he's asking is, can there be a checklist that's made that even though it hasn't been completed, the agent can still access the system?
No. So when it comes to the onboarding process, it's kind of all or nothing. Either you complete your checklist and someone clicks finish. As long as someone clicks finish, they'll have access to the system. But it's not a partial deal. If they, do their portion and there's still some that the admin hasn't completed yet, the way this works is until the admin officially clicks finish, they won't have access to the system.
And then the last question we'll answer before moving on here, Linda Miller asks, can you use this, she kind of gave some specific examples, independent contractor agreement, all that type of stuff. Can you use these documents? And yes, the short answer is yes. As long as it's a PDF, you can use any document that you want. And just to reiterate what Frisco had said a little earlier, we are, at least at the beginning of this process, we are doing complementary mapping of certain forms or a certain amount of forms for clients. So if you do have very specific forms that you want to have mapped, we can do that complimentary as kind of like a welcome to agent onboarding thing for you. And then, I have a ton of send it online for so Daryl Wass responded with, I have a ton of tasks they need to do, like setting up online profiles they want them to complete, but not to start business. So that would be something that you, at least currently, wouldn't want to handle inside of Brokerage then, Daryl. You'd want to put only your required items for having access to Brokerage inside of Brokerage. As we do for future enhancements, I'm sure that's something that'll be coming out, but it's not currently the way it's set up. All right, so let's go ahead and keep moving here, Frisco.
So now that we've got our checklist created, we've got, we've gone through onboarding that new agent. We've gone through onboarding that existing agent. What happens when we close everything out? What happens when we cancel? So actually, Taylor, that really wraps up a large majority of this. One of the few things left is what happens to all that old paperwork? Once the onboarding part is said and done, do I ever have access to those documents again? If so, how do I get to them? Well, these are always saved in those user profiles. So if we've done onboarding, if they've completed it, we can just come on in. We see agent demos, onboarding process is already done, 100%. We just give it a click. Again, we see when it did start, how long it did take. All we have to do is click details, and it'll take us directly to that checklist they did, and we can access that paperwork there. So we keep track of all of this with the agent's profile. As long as this profile exists, we will always have access to be able to come back in and view those documents. So again, Just like everything else in brokerage, nothing is ever truly lost. We're not getting rid of anything. We're not deleting anything. It stays here ready for you to always come back in and take a look to see if anything needs to be redone or maybe missing, or maybe there's expiries on some of these. Those are all the major main points for the onboarding process. Again, we tried to keep this very familiar by using a sequence similar to a transaction, and we've tried to keep it really simple. Now, for any of you guys that have seen this and this is interesting to you, again, reach out to your implementation specialist, get all the details hammered out, and getting it activated for you will be extremely simple for us. So with that also being said, I think we're good for any last minute questions, anything else that come in. And I will go ahead, Emmanuel, and start getting set up to send out that welcome email so you can see what it looks like.
And just to make sure everyone's good to go here too, if something is sent for an agent for e-sign, it looks like any other document that gets sent out from e-sign. It doesn't look different because it came from agent onboarding or anything like that. Daryl, so all right, great. We have a few questions coming in. Daryl asks, will there be an email address for agents like properties so documents can be emailed?
So one small difference there. Okay, actually, I guess that is another difference. So there is no email address for these forms to be filled in because there is no unsorted section. Any emails that you email into a transaction always populate into that unsorted section, because when we create transactions, they're all unique. Every transaction has its own serial number. It all comes with its own email address. These onboarding things don't work that way. They're not entirely like transactions. We just did try to build them similar to it. So as of now, no, there is no way to email them in.
And Mariana Torres asks, can you add tasks that don't need a document?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So from inside, and we'll go ahead and come take another look at that. From inside of our checklist, we can add those regular tasks that don't require documents. Just no need to check the box off, and as long as we don't check it, it'll show up just like it would any other time. Missing the document symbol, and then from within it, the actual onboarding module, it will be a check in the box.
All right, and what other questions do we have about agent onboarding? All right, well, we'll start to wrap this up here. Please feel free to keep typing in any questions that you may have. We do appreciate you all joining us here today. Frisco's setting something up, I believe, so that he can demonstrate a welcome email here. So if anyone wants to see what that actually looks like, feel free to stick around. I'm assuming we're going to show it on the screen here. So let's see, we got a couple more questions, Frisco, while you're doing that popped through. Yep. One is, if we activate the onboarding module when we create a new user, can we skip onboarding if we do not want to use it for a particular agent?
Yes, just like those options you saw at the very end when you create a new user, you have the ability to create them without the welcome email, with a welcome email, or onboarding. So if you don't want to do onboarding, just simply don't select that option.
Daryl Wass has another question. He's asking, can we create a folder for agents to store their continuing education certificates?
Although that is a great idea and something similar to what we've heard before, currently we cannot. But I would definitely take a look at the feedback portal to see if that item is already in there. If so, vote for it. Have every agent underneath you vote for it if you really like that idea, and we'll see what we can do about it, see if we can get it added to our wish list. If not, go ahead and create that, because I have heard something similar before, and I do think that's a fantastic idea.
And then Daniela asks, can this demo be shared with other members? So yeah, this video, once again, is going to be available to everybody on our knowledge base, and that link is a public link. So after we get this video up on our knowledge base system, you can share this video with anybody that you want.
All right, so back to Emmanuel for a sec. I think I finally got this email to come in. So I created a new user account. I've sent this email out, so here it is. So it just says, hi, the user we sent it to you. Who has created our account? Welcomes you to Doyle Rules Realty back office system. This helps real estate companies to go paperless. So this is that basic welcome aboard email. And we will do one more because I know what you're gonna ask next. So give me 1 second. I'll set up that second one while we go through these last bit of questions and you guys start finishing up the polling. And again, really appreciate you guys' feedback on those poll questions. So that first email you saw was the welcome email from when we just create a basic user account, no onboarding. So now we're getting ready to come up with one that actually does use the onboarding. And then we can go ahead and compare them and see if there's any difference really between the two. So give me a few seconds here, and that last one should be coming in.
And while Frisco is demonstrating this, please feel free to keep typing in any additional questions that you have.
All right, so again, here's that regular email, and here's the onboarding email. So there actually is no difference between the type of email they get, whether you create the user account with onboarding or without onboarding. The only difference is after the onboarding one sets up his password, he's going to go straight to the module and not be able to see the transactions and everything else. So I hope that does really answer your question for you, Emmanuel.
And it seems like we've answered all the questions. Once again, if you have any more, feel free to type them in while we're wrapping up here. But I think we can begin wrapping up, Frisco.
All right, not a problem. Well, again, appreciate you guys all coming out and kind of spending the time and taking this bit with us and kind of sticking around with us and going through these updates and really experiencing all of this. So I think that about wraps everything up. Again, we kind of went over everything from our configuring those new checklist type, onboarding the new agents, onboarding existing agents, monitoring the progress and how to track that percentage and the amount of time it's taking, what happens when we cancel onboarding and how to do so, and then what happens when we officially finalize that onboarding process.
And before we totally wrap up here, Daryl asked another question. This one's fantastic, so I want to answer this while we have as many people in the program as we do. He asked, I see you have the ability to add a task list. Can you create one for new versus one for existing agents?
Yes, just like transaction checklist, you can create as many as you need or as many as you want. So if you have a specific set of tasks you want for transfers and terminations and new, go ahead, create all three, have all the paperwork you need for each one of them, exactly in the order and the way in which you need to take care of it. There is no limit to the amount of checklists or tasks that you can create. So if that's everything that you guys have for us, then that's everything I have for you guys. Really appreciate everything, you guys are doing for us and helping us to kind of advance and build our product here. It's all for you guys.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. Once again, this recording will be available. We'll go ahead and turn it into a video and add it to our knowledge base. If you have any further questions or want to request a demo for this to have it turned on for your system, please feel free to reach out to your support specialist, reach out to us via chat, telephone, whatever method you prefer, and we'll be more than happy to help.